when Elliot and his friends ascend and swoop over the federal agents, gliding across suburbia and finally crossing a brilliant amber sunset before descending into a magical forest. There were very few moments in cinema up to that point that could match the beauty, grandeur, and sheer emotionally overwhelming spectacle of this ending to Steven Spielberg's best film. I call E.T. the best film of Spielberg's career because it's a fact. E.T. is simply, without a doubt, a perfect movie, and very few of them exist. While some may argue Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jaws, or Close Encounters deserve the top spot, I'd counter that E.T. has what none of them do, a sense of restraint. Before E.T., Spielberg had always gone big. Big stories, big set pieces, big characters, big endings. And those early films work because of their larger-than-life aspirations. But none of them could seemingly touch audiences in the same way that E.T. did. It's hard to believe this now, but E.T. was a sheer seismic event in the movie world that no one had ever seen before outside of Star Wars. The summer, and for that matter fall, winter, and following spring of 1982 and 83 all belonged to the strange-looking little brown creature that ascended from the heavens and touched the hearts of millions. With his magical healing touch, large inquisitive eyes, squat little body, and creaky old lady voice. It was such an odd combination of elements to hang an entire movie on, but somehow Spielberg made it work. And E.T. works because it's the first time in Spielberg's career that he slowed down and focused less on spectacle and more on the human spirit, with all its amazing capacity for empathy, goodwill, and lasting change. The characters in E.T. aren't after grand adventure like in Jaws or Raiders, or yearning for something outside of themselves like in Close Encounters. They're just normal, everyday, regular people who happened upon something out of this world. They react to E.T. like any normal person would react. Elliot sees E.T. like he would a lost puppy who needs to be shielded from the cruelty of the outside world. Michael sees E.T. as some silly, odd little thing that his brother got mixed up with, until he doesn't, and starts to care for E.T. like one would their own child. Gertie accepts E.T. without reservation, asking for nothing in return and giving as much as she can, because that's what little children do. Mary sees E.T. as a threat that needs to be gotten away from, and the government sees E.T. as a prize, something to be gotten a hold of and taken for their own selfish gains. The characters are all distinct, well-drawn, and have motivations rooted in reality that feels familiar. Spielberg took the everyday suburban landscape he featured in Close Encounters and brought it down a notch. In that film, Rory Neary's yearning to come to terms with a mysterious force he doesn't understand but can't stop thinking about is something more closely tied to the director's own obsession with UFOs. It was a little more esoteric, and its sweeping grandeur, mixed with a kind of exhausting anxiety, while effective, always felt a little removed from reality to me. I was always on the outside looking in. With E.T., Spielberg removed that barrier and put the audience smack dab in the middle of the situation. Anyone could be Elliot or Michael or Mary. E.T. started out as a dark sequel to Close Encounters, with Spielberg wanting to show the flip side of the alien and UFO phenomenon, a side that was more malevolent. Spielberg got the idea from Joseph Allen Hynek, a professor of astrophysics who created the Close Encounter classification and its various numeric designations. Hynek was hired to consult on the film. While researching, Hynek told Spielberg about a strange, unexplained case in Hopkinsville, Kentucky in 1955, where the residents of a farm were apparently terrorized by alien creatures. John Sayles was hired to write the script, then titled Night Skies, but Spielberg had a change of heart while filming Raiders of the Lost Ark and having long conversations with Melissa Matheson, who at the time was Harrison Ford's girlfriend. Spielberg had always wanted to make a personal autobiographical film centered on his childhood. They were both moved by the relationship between the boy in Night Skies and the alien creature, and that was all the motivation needed to cancel the Night Skies film and start work on a new script they called E.T. and Me. Spielberg has always maintained that E.T. was under the surface about the divorce of his parents and how lonely and disillusioned it made him. He often fantasized about creatures outside of his bedroom window, wishing they'd make contact with him and get him out of his depression. In an ironic twist, Spielberg's darkest period would be repurposed into his greatest triumph. And it's this triumph that is best exemplified in the film's visual and narrative crescendo during the bike chase, with the children literally rising above and escaping their frightening and painful circumstances as a result of the intervention of the creature in their midst. It's Spielberg's imaginative fantasy come to life. The entire movie, in a sense, is funneled into this one moment. The combination of John Williams' rousing, spine-tingling music combined with the unforgettable visual spectacle of bikes and children racing across the sky, silhouetted against a gorgeous setting sun and descending into a magical forest for the finale, is probably the greatest cinematic contact high audiences have ever experienced. It is a sequence that has seared into my mind like no other in movies. Spielberg's virtuoso talent with the camera, some of which I covered in my previous Jaws analysis, blossoms and matures in E.T. His compositions are both showy and economical. Part of this stems from the very tight shooting schedule that forced him to distill every shot down to its narrative and emotional essence. In fact, E.T. was the first film that he didn't storyboard. This forced Spielberg into a more improvisatory style, and in my opinion, this was a breakthrough, and gave the film a much more thoughtful visual palette, focused more on character and story than dazzling visual tricks. There is a patience and restraint to the camera blocking and staging of scenes in E.T., and the film feels like a more mature step forward for the filmmaker. E.T. was a turning point in Spielberg's career, not just visually. It also highlighted his considerable rapport with child actors, and his ability to extract great performances from them. Spielberg's childlike point of view has always infused his work. It's this childlike wonder that gave the shark in Jaws such menace, the UFOs in Close Encounters such awe-inspiring power, and the artifacts in Raiders such mysterious intrigue. E.T. takes the childlike curiosity Spielberg seems so blessed with and puts it front and center, with almost every scene using it as a stylistic foundation. And what Spielberg experience would be complete without John Williams adding his musical genius? While E.T. would work even as a silent film, Williams' score just puts it over the top, spilling emotions into audiences who can never seem to make it through the film without shedding at least a few tears. Spielberg would go on to make other amazing films, but there's just something about E.T., with its perfect storm of elements that came together to make an all-time classic that none of his other works can match. If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting the like and subscribe button, as I'll be posting more content in the future. Thanks for watching.